Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome back to my latest show on my most recent music purchases. These music purchases were from Joe Nardone's Gallery of Sound in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Here's the t-shirt that I wore in the description, and I believe I wore this on the very first episode that I did here on the Music Nut Program, if not the first, one of the first. So I picked up 9 CDs from them yesterday. I only buy CDs for myself. If I buy a vinyl, it's usually a gift. So here's the big ass black bag that I had in the description. And I also picked up some CDs from Amazon and eBay and one at a show last night. And I'll be talking about that band on Monday, March 10, when I do a show on them. But I will get into that a little bit. But let's see what's in the black bag. Now, I'm just going to grab these at random. Okay, Metallica, 72 Seasons. This is their latest album from 2023. I have nearly all the Metallica albums. I don't have the S&M album. I don't want to hear a rock band with an orchestra. I had the 598 EP back in the day, or the 998 CD. I no longer have that. I know they put out Garage Inc. I never picked that up, but I have heard it many times. I have all the other studio albums. I've been a fan since Ride the Lightning, and I haven't seen them since 1994, but I'm going to see them Memorial Day weekend in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I figured I'd better pick this up because I've yet to hear this album. I haven't checked it on Spotify or Apple or anything like that. So I wanted to pick this up and ingest it before I go to see them. I imagine they're only going to do maybe 1, 2 songs from it. They're mostly hitting the older catalog these days for what I've seen on Setlist FM. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what we got next. Okay, now we're going to go used. John Cougar Mellencamp, The Lonesome Jubilee from 1987. I had this on CD probably around 1988 because I got my first CD player in 87. And I had this for a few years. I loved this album back in the day. And a few years, maybe mid 90s or so, I unloaded a bunch of CDs, and a lot of them were my John Cougar Mellencamp CDs. But I've been hearing a lot of stuff off of this lately because I wake up to the river 104.3 FM here in Northeast Pennsylvania. And a lot of times I'm waking up to check it out or cherry bomb off this album. And when I started listening to this again, I was like, God, I gotta have this album again. I I love this album. This and Scarecrow that came before it. A few of the later albums I like a lot too. But the big hits on here were Paper and Fire, Check It Out, and Cherry Bomb. The Real Life got played heavy on AOR. Rudy Toot Toot was a single too. That didn't do nearly as well as the other ones I discussed, but this is a great album. I'm glad I have this one in my possession again. See what we got next. Well, I'll pick up a new one because I can tell, if it's a jewel case, it's probably old. If it's cardboard, it's new. Oh, the new Bob Mold. Here we go crazy. I love Bob Mold solo stuff. I don't have a lot of it. This is probably album number 6 or 7 of the solo albums I have. But I have the previous album, Blue Hearts, and that was my favorite album, 2020. I have most of the Husker Du releases. I have all the Sugar releases as well. Bob Mould is fantastic. He writes these very catchy songs. He's been doing his whole career. Very catchy songs with very angry lyrics or thoughtful lyrics. I mean, most of the time the lyrics aren't sunny and bright. The arrangements maybe, the songs maybe, the lyrics not so much. But I love Blue Hearts. I definitely have to check, go even deeper into his solo catalog. Like I said, this is maybe number 6 that I have by him. But this is Here We Go Crazy. And this came out on Friday, March 7th. There's another one that I'm going to be talking about that also came out on Friday, March 7th. Is it this one here? Let me see. Yes, it is. Jason Isbell, Boxes in the Snow. This is just Jason acoustic on here. And I believe this is his first album since he and Amanda Shire split up. So we got 11 tracks on here. I love Jason Isbell's music. I have all of his albums but the first one. Now I'm talking studio albums. I don't have the live albums. But down the road, I'd like to I'll do a lot more shows about Jason Isbell. Maybe I'll do a weekly series on him, but he's one of the finest songwriters out there right now. And I've been reading great reviews about Foxes in the Snow. So there's the second of my new releases. See what we got next. Oh, this works out great because in a couple hours after I record this, I am going to see Burton Cummings with my friends Nick and Stacy, the incomparable Nick Esquire, as you may know from the Contrarians, the Guess Who's Greatest Hits. So we're going to see Burton Cummings tonight. He's playing at Penn's Peak in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. So I was like, I don't have any CDs by the Guess Who. I have a best of cassette, which I bought in the 80s, never had a CD. They had this and they had the best of the Guess Who. This had 18 tracks. The other one had 14. Similar track listing as far as the hits go. So I went with this one. And I'm going to check this out before I drive up and meet Nick and Stacy and go to the show. But as far as the hits, yeah, they were a hit machine in 70 and 71. These Eyes, Laughing, Undone, No Time, American Woman, later covered by Lenny Kravitz. I like Lenny Kravitz's music. I'm not a high on that version, though. No Sugar Tonight, New Mother Nature, Hand Me Down World, Share the Land. They were all really, really big hits. And then we got songs on here that were also hits, but they didn't quite resonate, like Albert Flasher, Rain Dance, Star Baby, Clap for the Wolfman. If you watch the Midnight Special channel on YouTube, just dropped on Friday, March 7, was the Guess Who's appearance on the Midnight Special, and they hosted. Burton Cummings hosted. Burton has this cool getup on, this cool suit. And they and Wolfman Jack sing Clap for the Wolfman on there. It's a kick-ass episode. They also had Montrose on there, Charlie Daniels Band, and Spencer Davis Group were on. But anyway, definitely looking forward to listening to this before the show and for many, many years to come. The Guess Who Greatest Hits. All right. See what we got next. Okay. New archival release by War, live in Japan, 1974. These are live recordings from 74, most recently discovered. I don't have War live, but I have a lot of the studio albums. As a matter of fact, War put out a collection about a month ago of the studio albums that came later. Like there were 5 discs. Galaxy was in there, Outlaw, the music band, Peace Sign, but they put it all out in a 5 disc collection. And they put this out at the same time, but I just picked this one up. Not War, a fantastic live band. They were a fantastic live band back in the day. They're still a good live band. You only have Lonnie Jordan as the original member now, but they still bring it live. But back then they were juggernauts. I'm looking forward to this. Listening to it. What's next? The Wallflowers, Red Letter Days. I believe this was probably the release after Breach, if I'm not mistaken. Been really on a Wallflowers kick lately since I did the album after show on Breach. Now I only need the first self-titled album, the last album they put out. Now I have them all. I love the Wallflowers. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see them July 11 in Bethlehem at the Wind Creek Event Center. Great live band too. I believe that Jacob's the only original member. I'm not sure if the keyboard is still there, but great live band. I saw him 5 years ago. I'm sorry, it was 3 years ago. I saw him up in Maine. They put on a great show that night. So There's the Wallflowers, Red Letter Days. That's a used one. This next one I think is a used one. This is, oh, live. The Distance to Here. This is from 1999, the album after Secret Samadhi, which I just reviewed here on the Music Nut program as part of my album after series. That is an album that's a real grower. I've never heard this album. I only know The Dolphins Cry, which was the hit single off it, which was very, very good. But I'm looking forward to digging into this one. I'll tell you one thing. When I do those album after shows, they're so much fun to do because after I really ingest those albums, it makes me want to dig deeper into the catalog. So I'll go out and buy more albums by that band or artist, or I will go back and revisit some of the other albums, get to know them better. But this is the live Distance to Here from 1999. Last one here is another used one. This is Mad Season, actually Matchbox 20 with their album Mad Season, not to be confused with Mad Season, which was out of Seattle, and they did the Above album. There are members of Alice in Chains and Soundgarden in there, I believe. Anyway, this is the follow-up to their huge album that came out in 1996 that had so many hits on it. And this is going to be another album after show that I do in the near future. If You're Gone was the huge ballad off this. Bent was the first single. That was a #1 hit. I don't know the rest of the songs on this album. So this will be a new adventure, just like live Distance to Here will be for me. So anyway, this is Mad Season, which is by Matchbox 20. So those are the 9 from Gallery of Sound. Here's some others I picked up recently. This one's for you, Eric Robertson, because we were talking in comments about Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. I picked up Call of the Wild. This album kicks, man. The great songs really aren't here. I mean, they're good songs, but the jams on here are very, very good. Ted's in fine voice. The band sounds great. This is a kick-ass album. I'm not going to say it's as good as the first 3 Ted Nugent albums, but I'm glad I picked this up. I also picked up 2 of the original album series, which is like 5 CDs that they'll put out in these cardboard disc cases, and they'll put it out as a set. And this is Fleetwood Mac's original album series. Now, here you got albums when Peter Green was the primary songwriter, as well as when Bob Welch was their primary songwriter. This includes Then Play On, Kiln House, Future Games, Bare Trees, and Mystery to Me. Mystery to Me had the song Hypnotized, which was probably the earliest song that I really knew by Fleetwood Mac, because they played that heavy on album-oriented rock radio back in the day. I don't hear it anymore. What a hypnotic groove on there. Fantastic song. And this was, of course, before they broke open, when Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks came in the band for that self-titled, I believe it was the 9th album or 10th album from 1975. But Then Play On, I listened to already. This is very good. A lot different than the Fleetwood Mac that you know and love. If you're a longtime fan, you know and love Then Play On. But I'm looking forward to listening to this. And I've only listened to one disc so far from this one, from Fleetwood Mac, Original Album Classics. I also have another one here, Original Album Series, I should say. This is one I've been wanting to buy forever, and it's still out there. Warren Zevon's Original Album Series. Now, Warren Zevon was somebody I always liked. I never owned any of his albums. But this one has his self-titled debut, which there were a lot of songs on here covered by Linda Ronstadt, Excitable Boy, which was probably his commercial breakthrough because of the title song in Werewolves of London and Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School, Stand in the Fire, which is a live album, and The Envoy. So I'm really looking forward to digesting these. I've only heard the first two. Well, I heard Excitable Boy many, many years ago, and then I never heard the self-titled one until I picked this up. So that's going to be fun. So I give a shout out to Eric Robertson for this one, as well as Tim Derling. April Wine. It's a two-disc collection, which has Nature the Beast and Power Play on it. Their albums from 1981 and 82, respectively. Nature the Beast is probably the most popular album in the United States because Just Between You and Me was their biggest hit in the States easy. And Sign of Gypsy Queen was a big AOR hit, and that charted on the top 100 as well. And Power Play has Enough is Enough, which almost hit the top 40 here. I know these albums sold huge in Canada. If You See K, I know was a very popular song in Canada as well. And they do a great version of the Beatles' Tell Me Why on Power Play. A lot different than the original. They did a great job with it. Nature to Beast is pretty good. A lot of the songs are pretty catchy, you know. The lyrics were never their strong suit, in my opinion, but they definitely had a knack for writing catchy rock songs. So I picked this up. I'm definitely gonna pick up the one with there's a collection with Animal Grace and another album which is escaping me right now. That might have been from '87. I don't know their catalog that well, so tell you straight out. This was a band that I said, okay, I'm going to get deeper into this band. I got to get to know more about. This is another band that I got to get to know their earlier material. And this one, I know I'm going to be talking about this in the near future on this channel. Whitesnake, Live in the Heart of the City. Now, I heard songs off of this on WRKC, Radio Kings College, on their metal show back in the 80s that would come on Saturdays from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this focuses on the albums that sold well in Europe, but they didn't cross over to the United States yet. And we have a few songs. This is actually a two-disc version. I believe this is an extended version. We have Might Just Take Your Life and Mistreated versions of that, which David Coverdale originally did with Deep Purple on the Burn album. So this one I'm really looking forward to. The original version of Fool for Your Lovin', later done on 1989 Slip of the Tongue album. So I haven't checked this out yet, but I will be listening to this and absorbing it and doing a show on it in the near future. Now, the last one I want to talk about is a band I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I'm going to be doing this as part of my Artist Spotlight series. This is a band from Pennsylvania that play great Celtic punk music, the Killmaine Saints. Now, when I was doing the Thin Lizzy series, I would have this poster on the wall where the Smithereens one is now. I would put this here to stay in the Irish tradition. Now, their music is very punk, but there's a lot of fiddle, there's a lot of bagpipes. Definitely more of a punk edge than anything else, but they sing a lot about the Irish tradition as well as singing a lot of very rambunctious party songs. So this album is untraditional. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is number one, I bought it when I saw them last night. They're great live. This was the fifth time I saw them at the Mock Junk Opera House. They are a kick-ass live band. This was also the only album I didn't have by them. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to do a show on them, like a 15-minute show where I'm going to talk about their albums and I'm going to talk about their live show. They only go out like around St. Patrick's Day. So this is being recorded 8 days, I'm sorry, 9 days, 8 days before St. Patrick's Day here in the United States on March 17th. So songs off of this that you hear live. This is a shorter, like Drunken Sailor, they always play live, and that is catchy as sin. I know I've heard them play that many times live. And I know I've heard come out, you black and tans as well. But I'll be going more in depth on this band on the Artist Spotlight show on the Kilmaine Saints. So, what have you picked up recently? What have you been listening to recently? Are you more into CDs or into vinyl? I know I'm kind of the last of a dying breed with the CDs, but I'm going to stay that way. It's just so much more convenient. I know the bands don't get as much money from them, but I like to do my part by buying the originals. And I did burn a lot of CDs back in the day, but I bought a lot of originals since to replace them. So please let me know what you've picked up lately, what you think of the albums that I have discussed here, what you think of the bands that I've discussed here. And if you've seen Burton Cummings recently, please give me your comments on how you think he and his band are doing live. I'd love to hear it. Just to let you know, Chris Whitley Wednesday will be continuing here on the Music Nut program. We'll be filming these shows shortly, and these will be out on Wednesday, March 12th. I'm going to be talking about two albums that came out in 2004. One of them is Weed, which is all acoustic versions of songs from his first three albums. There's 16 tracks on this album. And War Crime Blues, one of my favorite Chris Whitley albums that originally was only available through Chris Whitley's website and eMusic where I bought it and at shows. And later on, you were able to buy it on Amazon, just as you were the Weed album. So until I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.